Okay, so it's
Welcome, ladies.
welcome. Okay, just so you know, the beginning's gonna be a little chaotic because we have like 190 people registered. So I feel like it's gonna be like ding, 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 ding. So
Gonna get
me
that.
and Randy are gonna kick us off and then we're gonna be like admitting people as they come in.
Yeah, so we're super excited. I just wanted to start off with a little bit of housekeeping. So this is going to have a question and answer format at the end. So we're going to let the speakers talk. And really what we're excited about is just starting to hear like what's working post the NAR settlement, right? Where are people seeing success in their business? Where are they seeing wins? Where are we excited about this and seeing opportunities? And so we really want you to just think about being a fly on the wall around like 3 or 4 of the top producers in the country and hear how they are pivoting and how they're winning. And so that's how we want you to kind of just attend for the first half. If you do have questions that pop up and you're like me and you won't remember them, drop those in the chat. We'll come back to those. We definitely want you chatting and engaging in the chat, but hold off on actually asking those questions until we get to the end. So I think that that's about it. On that note, Kristen, today I'm super excited because we're starting with some of my favorites. So do you want to introduce the ladies that are going to lead us today?
Yes, I'm really excited for all three of you guys to speak. I get a chance to talk to all of you often. So I know you guys have so much value to provide and so much great insight in this conversation. So I'll start off with introducing Erin Etheridge. Erin, why don't you talk so that your face pops up for everybody?
Hey guys, it's Erin.
So Erin is actually here in Arizona. She's a team leader of a 30-person team that sells over 100 million in production. She is an elite agent at Real Broker, which each of the girls speaking today actually are, which means they sell at least over 30 homes. She's big on utilizing the ninja selling and staying in flow with your clients versus buying leads. Also teaches how to run their business like a business. The other one that I want to introduce next would be Beth. Do you want to go ahead and say hi, Beth?
Hi everybody, I'm Beth. I'm in Buffalo, New York, so it's actually not 10 o'clock where I am.
Oh yeah, it's like 1 o'clock where you're at, right?
Yes.
Yes, I actually met Beth through the Moms in Real Estate podcast, so super happy that you're here. Beth Matthews is a top 10 agent. She was an independent broker owner, a team lead, a coach, and specializes in building a business without paid leads. All right. And the next person, Rachel, why don't you go ahead and say hi so everyone can see you?
Hi, I'm Rachel.
All right. And Rachel's also in Arizona. She is a top 200 agent here in Arizona, top 40 under 40. She is a team leader, a coach, and she specializes in VAs and investor clients. So thank you all for being here. And if you guys everybody, if they can put themselves on mute, we are going to give the floor to Rachel, Erin, and Beth to talk all about what they're seeing while navigating NAR.
Erin, you want to start?
Sure.
I know how much you love that.
Well, first and foremost, thanks so much for Kristen and Randy for putting this on. I think it's important conversations, and I think it's also I'm super stoked to be partnered with and just really like all the women in real estate. I feel like now more than ever, I'm so stoked that all of this has transpired because we get to show where our value really is as realtors and as professionals in the workplace. And I think women specifically have unique superpowers that the guys just don't. So I feel like we are going to come out shining on this. I'm already making so much more money. So, and I know that Rachel and I have kind of talked about that a little bit. Um, instead of getting whatever was being offered before, now I get to negotiate upfront what my fee is, and I'm getting a percent to a percent and a half more than what I was before. So I just gave myself a $30,000 raise inside the last couple of weeks. I'm stoked.
Yeah.
How about you, Rachel?
I'll jump in. I was talking to a mastermind. What was that, Kristen? Wednesday or Thursday? And I'm gonna kind of piggyback on that a little bit. And what I want to like encourage you guys in all of this is a couple things. One, education is key. You need to understand this. If you do not feel confident in this, you need to connect to someone who can help you feel confident in navigating all of this. And you are in a room full of women here who are willing to help and do that, which is what these are for. Because I'll tell you, in that group, it was a group of mastermind from $7 to $12 million producers. And in that group, many of them raised their hand that they were still not super confident in seeing their value, in asking for what they thought. Now, technically, we're not supposed to talk commissions or percentages. So we're going to use words here that whatever the dumb bananas or whatever your brokerage wants you to use, right? One of the gals in that group said, I think that we make enough money, sometimes too much money. If you're sitting in this room and you think that, I can tell you your answer is completely wrong. We do not make enough money, in my opinion. And like Erin said, we have talked about this. I run a team and I have 3 agents that work with me. And I ran the numbers just last year on our commissions. If we were to get 3 bananas, whatever you want to call it, on every single transaction that we closed, we would have made an additional $200,000 last year. Spread that among 3 people, that's a lot of money, right? And so if you give me the right to negotiate my own commission now, like Erin and I said, you best believe I'm going to be making a lot more money. Right? Are there going to be some houses that you maybe can't negotiate higher and you maybe have to come down to get your client that house? Yes. But that house been sitting for 30 days. You want my client to buy it. You're going to pay me what our agreement is. And a lot of agents in that group, what Erin and I have helped them understand in some of our team meetings is the average buyer's agent spends 120 hours on that transaction. So if you're one of those agents out there going, I'm willing to sign at 1.5, you are leaving money on the table, and you are probably, after you take out what your broker fees are, what you're paying in taxes, what you're setting aside for your own retirement, what you're spending in healthcare, you want to add all your business expenses up. I would bet on, let's just say, a $15,000 commission, you are actually probably taking home about $6,000 of the average person after they've worked for a company and all of their money comes out. You're telling me you really want to work for $17 an hour? Because I don't.
No.
Right? And so what I will tell you is you need to have confidence in this and confidence in what value you bring. If you do not have value and you don't have a value proposition of what you bring for your clients, it's going to be hard to sit there. I will tell you, all of our team, we get signed at 4. And no one's kicked back on that. After this meeting I had with the mastermind that I had last week, I was getting text this weekend. I just signed 2 buyers at 4 because they were so confident. They understood, they put their value proposition together. So what I can tell you in all of this is don't be scared, but find your value proposition. Something that our team did is we're putting together a list of like 100 things that a buyer's agent does. Most people do not understand what we do and how much work we do behind the scenes. I always tell this to my agents. A good agent makes the job look really easy. It makes it look like we make too much money, right? Because we're not bringing our client into all the drama that we have to deal with on the back end. They don't know how many emails and text messages we're doing, all of that stuff. But if you start breaking that down for them and helping them understand what all value you bring to the table, I promise you, you're going to feel more confident going into your consults with your buyers, getting them to sign these agreements and getting paid. And one thing I'm going to hop on and then I'll let Beth go because I'm looking at the time. Is if you are not doing a buyer consult, that is your first step in all of this NAR negotiation and understanding it. If you've just flown by the seat of your pants and you are like, I'm just going to get a call on a house, I'm going to go show the buyer, I'm going to write a contract, I'm going to whatever, and that buyer has no idea what's going on in the transaction, there's a reason you're struggling with going and now getting these documents signed. So you need to take a step backwards in your business and go, what do I need to do to set up a buyer consult with these people? We have on our team, if you can't give us 30 minutes of your time for a Zoom or an in-person meeting, we don't have time to sell you a house. And those buyer consults is where we are able to go over everything that we offer, where we're able to show our value, and where we're able to get that buyer broker agreement signed. And most people do not balk about anything because we're laying it out for them. We're taking time to educate them and help them before we ever open a door for them. So they don't just see us as people who open doors and get paid too much money. They see us as educators and people who bring value to the transaction. So in the beginning of all of this, we're going to have 6 weeks of going through all these navigating NAR. But my advice to you is setting up something of value for a buyer consult and gaining your own confidence that you think you're valuable. If you go into that meeting going, I'm not worth XYZ, I promise you, you're not going to get a buyer broker agreement signed at the max dollar you can. So you got to work on that confidence. You've got to work on your value proposition and putting that all together. So that's kind of my 2 cents here. And then I'll let Beth go in before we do questions for you guys.
Yeah, Rachel, great segue. So being in New York, we're an attorney state, and I was fortunate that when I got into the business in 2009, I was taught to always get a buyer's rep agreement signed. I was taught to always speak about how compensation worked. And so I feel like I have an advantage that I'm more than happy to share with you guys, meaning I've had 16 plus years of learning how to articulate this, present it, deliver it. And Rachel's absolutely right. If you don't start with educating the client, then they don't fully understand the value that we bring to the table. And I'm going to get on my soapbox for just a minute because it is something that I love the power of social media, but I do think there's an opportunity for us to cast a wider net, meaning showing the public what we do by doing more than just posting pictures of our clients holding a sold sign and smiling with keys at the end of the transaction. Right? There's a perception that we're overpaid because we're not showing every step of what we do. So I'm going to encourage all of you that are so active and amazing on social media to tell the story of the entire journey. Maybe not as it's happening, but have some documentation about how you had to negotiate repairs, or the financing piece got a little sticky and you had to jump in and save a deal that way. Because when you start to show all of the pieces that we actually are doing, then it's easy to get into the right mindset that you're worth every penny that you're asking for and more. And if you don't have that mindset, then it doesn't matter how articulate you are. Your limiting beliefs are going to not be in alignment with the way that you're showing up, and it's going to be nearly impossible to convey that message. The other thing I think is really valuable, and I love that both of these ladies have really quantified what this means to their business, is we are no longer waiting for people to tell us what they're willing to pay us based off of published compensation in the MLS. So you have an amazing opportunity to decide your worth. I'm going to encourage everybody to look at the fact that there are a lot of bananas between 2 and 4. I think sometimes we get in this mindset that I need 2 bananas, 3 bananas, 4 bananas. Well, maybe I'll take 3.3 bananas. And if that's 0.3 more than you normally would, that 0.3 of a point over time adds up. And so if you are somebody that's not fully confident asking for 4 bananas, if you've historically accepted 2 bananas, then start with asking for 2.4. And when you quantify what that is in terms of what that could mean for your buyer potentially bringing to the closing table, it's a nominal amount in the grand scheme of things, and it helps you build up your income and your confidence at the same time.
Yeah. Erin, do you want to piggyback on anything that we said?
Yeah, basically a lot of the same conversations is that we've been talking as soon as I knew that this was going to head this way, about over a year ago, my team has we've had everybody with buyer brokers and everybody having the buyer consultation. But to piggyback on what Beth said is that as an industry, we have not done a great job of telling and showing people what we do. In their minds, do you guys ever get pissed off when you see online oh, well, my realtor barely did anything, I even found the house? I'm like, you finding the house from my MLS when you're searching every 2 seconds and I look for you twice a day or more or whatever on there for you. Anyone can see the house. Anyone can go show the house, but it's actually not us opening the door or finding the house if it's on the MLS. But what we haven't been talking about is how we're finding homes off market. Or this last week, we just had basically there was a buyer that was like, oh, I love this neighborhood. And we had to disclose, like, okay, this is great, but this will all come out during our inspection, is that this HOA is being sued, and here's what's happening behind the scenes. They wouldn't have had that representation and they wouldn't have known about that. They can still make their choice whether they want to be there or not be there, right? But they wouldn't have had that knowing, as well as just all of our negotiations up front. Like, I just negotiated a new roof and an AC. Like, do we actually think that they would negotiate those things without us? And I would say no, you know?
Yeah, and I love the off-market approach. I'm still in a market that there is a shortage of inventory. Buffalo's a little slow to adapt, so usually what happens on the East Coast, or I'm sorry, the West Coast, makes its way to us eventually. One of the things that I do for our buyer clients, and I make sure to articulate this, is I circle prospect neighborhoods that I know they want to be in. And that comes at a cost, because I'm looking to find them an off-market opportunity so they're not competing with 10 other people. And it's time. It's time that I'm investing. It's my ability to engage with a prospective seller who hasn't even raised their hand yet and said, hey, I'm interested in selling. And so one of the things that I do is I offer the opportunity to have me proactively look for a home for them that's off market. I give them an overview of what my process is. I said, if that's something that you're interested in, then my fee is an extra banana.
Yeah, Beth, I think that's good. I was talking to another team lead, and the same way, many of you with your listings might have different levels of what you offer on your listing. At this dollar amount, we do XYZ. At this, a dollar amount, we do this, and it all is adjusted. I think we're going to start even seeing that on these buyer reps, right? On, if you want me to go above and beyond, you only want these 2 neighborhoods. Okay, well, I'm going to go spend my dollars up front to try to find a seller who, like you said, has not raised their hand yet that they want to sell, try to get them to sell. That's going to cost this. And maybe that's where you can even start to build that confidence of, here's my packages. Let the buyer pick. Do you want the basic? Do you want the medium, or do you want the high, based on what they're looking for, right? And so I think the same way we have listings, I think we might start seeing some of that. And when you start narrowing that down for your own career, for your own market, and what that looks like, when you start, saying, I'm going to do this for this dollar amount, this for this, one, it not only builds your confidence on your value, on what am I willing to do, right? But it also helps you realize, what is my value? What am I willing to do for X bananas? What am I willing to do for not that, right? And you can set that up. This is your business. There is no price fixing, but it's, someone asked me the other day, like, well, will you tell someone what you're charging? I said, absolutely. If they don't want to pay it, they can go work with another agent. I will go find another buyer. Right? I don't have to work for a dollar amount I'm not comfortable with. And when you start writing out these things that you are willing to do and the value that you're going to bring, it's going to help you start realizing, what am I willing to do and what am I not willing to do? And so I think that is part of the key here, is building your confidence, building out your value propositions, and figuring out, what do I see my value at? What I told that group of agents in there is, your value is worth a lot more than most of you are probably putting on paper. And I hope you begin to see that. And to all of these women on this call, I hope you begin to see that if you're one of those agents that's like, hey, I'm willing to do it for X dollar amount because I just need to get this sign that I need a buyer, I hope you stop and go, I am willing to do it for this because this is my value. Start valuing your time away from your family, your time away from your kids, your time away from your loved ones. That is valuable. Also, the quality of life that you want, right? You have to put a value on your work. You can't just say, I need a buyer so bad, I'm willing to do XYZ. Because then what happens is they're going to tell their friends and family about you, and you're never going to get out of doing XYZ bananas because everyone knows you're willing to do it for XYZ bananas. And you're going to get resentful and bitter and be like, I'm worth more than this. We'll value that right now. Because I promise you, if you're on this call trying to learn and educate yourself, you are worth more if you don't see it.
Yeah, and the irony is, and maybe it's not irony, right? We all kind of at times pigeonhole ourselves into our belief system, and operating from a place of scarcity doesn't serve you, ladies. So know that you're all incredibly valuable and deserve more than you realize. I have brand new agents that without hesitation are commanding a higher percentage, a higher banana, sorry, than my most seasoned agents. And so much of it is a habit. And a habit can be changed, but it does take practice. So I would encourage all of you that if I can have somebody who's been licensed for 2 weeks sign a buyer at a higher level of bananas than somebody who's my top producer, then anybody on this call can do that.
Yeah.
But I also think that this has allowed our industry to really, the people that are not, that they don't see their value, or that they just are discount brokers, because we have had discount brokers in our marketplace for forever. This is not new that somebody will do a flat fee listing or only charge $1,000 or whatever to prepare buyer documents. This isn't new. And I think that we kind of, just as agents as a whole, maybe we got kind of lulled into like, oh yeah, we just set them up on a search and then like they'll let me know when they find something. Like that's so lazy and so against what we should be doing if we're actively working. If this is our career, we should be going and hunting for homes for them, in my opinion, right? It's never them telling me what they want to go see. My job is to actually look every single day and be like, hey, I just went and looked at 123 Main Street. This is amazing. Get in your car. We need to go, right? Or, hey, I just want you to know I checked out 123 Main Street, 621 Banana Street, and they both smell like cat pee. One of them actually back to a dumpster. Like, I think we should cross those off the list. So they still know that you're working for them, even though it was a dumpster fire.
Yeah. Can I ask a question before we go into the question and answer time? Don't take yourselves off mute. Just use the hand that you guys can. I know it's available. I don't know how to use it, so hopefully you do. How many of you in here feel confident asking a buyer to sign a buyer broker agreement, or are you still hesitant? So how many of you are confident? Raise your hand. Okay, we don't have tons of hands up. Let me go to the second screen. Those of you on the second screen with no faces, that doesn't help.
I'm raising my hand. I just can't figure out how to do it.
Well, I could do thumbs up and thumbs down, like thumbs
Yeah,
up. if you
thumbs
are
up, thumbs down.
confident in the
Okay.
chat,
So I
thumbs
would,
down not.
If you're really confident, drop a 1 in the chat. And if you're not confident, drop a 2.
yeah. And so I would say we're probably at about 50-50 based on these hands on some of these people. Okay.
1.5, I love it.
Yeah. Okay. So we're seeing some confidence here. And so that is good. For those of you that are like, I don't really want to say I'm a 10, right? What I can say is connect to someone who can help you build that confidence and get comfortable. And before we go into this questions, what my advice to you would be is write down everything that you bring value to your clients, right? Write all that down and start seeing everything you do down from the little things. Like that list should be pushing 100 things that you do for a client from start to finish, maybe even more, right? Erin, would you agree with that on a buyer side?
It's easily 100 items or more.
Yes. And so when you start physically writing that out, whether you're using a notepad or on your computer, you're going to start going, wow, I do a lot. I should feel confident in asking for this and be able to articulate that to your clients. And that's how you're going to get to be paid more.
Hey, ladies, can I piggyback on here? I know you guys are leading this today, but to your point, Rachel, about starting to outline it, we also need to outline the times that we pick up the heavy load for the listing agents. And this should be something that is packaged and delivered with our offer. And so with our offers, there should almost be a resume that's coming across. That's like, here's the reason why I, as a buyer's agent, am deserving of my compensation. And I'm going to further move this to the finish line as a buyer's agent, and why a seller should want to invest in helping assist in my compensation, right? I think that's really powerful. So a thing that I started about 6 months ago is asking listing agents when I'm on the buy side to give me a review as a buyer's agent on that side, and presenting that with my offers. So I think that's another thing that we can really, use powerfully.
Yeah.
And ladies, I'd encourage all of you, as you're either improving your confidence or working on your confidence, to also understand what your limitations are. Meaning, I know that I am limited to about 4, maybe 5 buyers at any given time that I can really effectively service at the level that I want to. It also gives me leverage that when I'm having that buyer consult, to say, I don't work with more than X number of buyers at a given point, because I know the level of service that I offer and I'm unwilling to sacrifice that. So I have one open spot at this moment. Would you like it? Because that piece of exclusivity makes them feel confident that they're getting something that other people want and have. It's no different than when you go to book a flight and they're like, 2 seats left, you feel a little pressured to book the flight sooner rather than later. And
Love
truly, like, know what your limitations are, because I'm sure we could all say, yes, we'd love to run 10 buyers at a time. And maybe you can, maybe that is a superpower that you have. I know that there is a point of diminishing returns where if I stretch myself too thin, those people are simply not going to get the experience that I want them to have. And it's not worth me risking my reputation to overextend myself and disappoint somebody, particularly when I have a great team that I can refer out to.
Yeah, that's great. Kristen, do you want us to jump into questions and answers for people that are sitting on here with a question or something that they need help with?
Yep. Yeah, I'd like to spend the next 15 to 30 minutes. We have all the way till 11, but we'll see how questions come in. Where you guys ask them anything. And so like Yvonne's doing, you can raise your little yellow hand, or you can drop the message inside of the chat. And so either one works for us. So we can go ahead and do that now. And Yvonne, you can start since your hand's been up.
Good morning, ladies. Thank you. Oh my gosh, like mind blowing, just powerful. I have goosebumps. So thank you. I went out Saturday. I'm in Los Angeles. It's not normally 107 degrees, but I went out and took a buyer, and I had no problem out. I shouldn't say I had no problem. I did a lot of training and a lot of research to feel comfortable and prepare myself for the buyer's agency agreement. But I noticed when I was out there talking to the listing agents or the open house people or anything, I was getting pushback about asking how many bananas if the seller was willing to give bananas or pay bananas, right? I got a little of that. And then I was the only one out with there were a lot of people coming into open houses, and I was the only one with my client. There were no agents with people. And I just want to say to people on there or listening, I started asking questions because I'm not really familiar with townhomes and condos. And like I think Erin just said, the lawsuits happening right now. When I asked a question if they were qualified, all the people in the room, the buyers, started looking at me, asking me questions. And I'm like, well, you need to talk to your agent, because I didn't want to overstep. My question to you guys is, we get the document, and I'm putting a certain number on there because that's what I was taught. But what if my first time buyer is unable to pay that? That's where I'm struggling, and how to ask the listing, I find value for my buyers, but I'm struggling with my value when another agent is questioning me and tearing me down when they're fighting for their listing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm asking it right, but I need help with the confidence to know my worth with the listing agent, I guess. Thank you.
Do you want me to take it, or what do you guys want to take it?
Hey, Rachel, you go for it.
Okay, so first off, I wouldn't even care what bananas they're offering. Has nothing to do with your client or the offer that you're making. Who cares what they're offering? Stop asking.
Same.
Like, I don't call on any listing and say, what bananas are you offering? It is a negotiation piece in the offer. Ask for whatever you want. They can counter it. Who cares what they think your value is? You know your value. Your client has signed off on this is what they're paying you, right? And if we want to piggyback on what Beth said, maybe you need to put together a resume that you send with every offer on this is why you should work with me. You know, our team closes 80 transactions a year. Out of that, we have a 98% close rate. Like, put whatever you want in the resume on whatever your statistics are on why this listing agent, one, sees your value and wants to get to the finish line with you, and two, why the seller should pay your compensation if that's what you're asking for, right? But I don't think it matters whether you're getting pushback or not. It's all a negotiation piece. The same way you might ask for concessions. If you call a listing agent and say, how much in concessions is your seller willing to pay? You think they're going to give you pushback? Yes, they are, because it's all negotiation. They might say 15 and you only need 10. I had a listing the other day. My client was 100% ready to pay 3 bananas. And we got multiple offers. Some of them were over asking price. And the agent that went over asking price only asked for 2.5 bananas. She left half a banana on the table, right? And that negotiation, she could have asked for more. My client was willing to pay for it. And I'm like, let's take it. You're saving some money here and getting over asking. So when she called, I had no problem saying, put it in the offer and we'll negotiate it the same way you would concessions. Same way you would if you're asking for them to pay HOA transfer fees. It is a negotiation piece. There, to me, I don't even think it's worth calling and asking.
Yeah, I don't call and ask either. Absolutely not.
Yeah. So use your negotiation skills to get what your client needs. And, you know, we have some clients, we work with a lot of veterans. A lot of them don't have tons of cash, right? And so we have a conversation with them in that buyer consult is, if this comes back that the seller is absolutely not willing to cover this compensation, would you want to borrow money from family, or would you rather find another property? You'd be surprised how many of them go, let's go find another property. Let's find someone who's willing to give me what they want. There is enough inventory out there for them to find another house. And so that is something, if you're doing buyer consults, that is a question you can ask. How much money do you have to put into this transaction? If we cannot get a seller to get everything you need, do you want us to just be able to move on? Yes.
Yeah, just like what Rachel just shared and what Mindy just shared in the chat, is that our compensation is the only thing that's currently being talked about, but nobody's talking about the lender fees or the escrow fees or anything like that. Basically, it's like, hey, the seller has agreed to pay 2.5 bananas. That means that 0.5 is going to get added into your closing costs. So that number is going to look like this. We have to start talking net sheets, just like what we do with our sellers, right? And sometimes they're okay with that, of like, oh yeah, I've got that, or no, they want to move on to something else. And it does depend, I would say, where you're offering. If there's multiple offers, it's easy to get caught up on it. When the market flips and it's a seller's market, remember, in seller's market, buyers are paying 50 grand, 100 grand, 150 grand over list price to get a home. Guess what? They're going to do that with our commission or compensation, whatever we're calling it now. They're going to do that also in this situation, but it also depends on the hard part that we have for us is that fiduciary duty, right? Because we're never supposed to do something that is outside or for us. We should always act in the client's best interest. Well, now they have commingled that, in my opinion, because I have talked to the agent, or I've talked to the client about what we're going to do and what that compensation looks like, and that I'm very good at getting that. But there's situations where they might not offer it, or they might not pay the full amount, and they'll still have the choice to either continue on that, say no thank you, or we can counter again and say, hey, if we're ready to we have all of these things in place, the 20% down, we look amazing, here's our resume. Let's go ahead and get this done, because the chances of your home sitting on the market, longer days on market, they're going to get less money, not more money. And we're offering full price with all of these things. Like, you could get it, but there's a chance that you're not gonna. So let's go ahead and get this done.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's so important that we manage the expectations with our clients out of the gate. So the way that I present my compensation is I say my compensation is X number of bananas. In a majority of the situations, over 98% of the time, I can negotiate to have the seller cover my bananas in whole or in part. If it's not in whole, my next step is to add it into what we refer to as a concession and work with your lender to roll that piece into the mortgage. If that's not an option, then the third and least likely scenario is that you would have to bring that extra percentage of banana to the closing table. Are you comfortable with that? And so I walk them through the 3 scenarios, and they're like, well, yeah, of course we expect you to get paid. You're our representation. Now, I do at times make decisions that if somebody offered me 0.5% less banana than what I've had my client commit to, sometimes there's value that's not always monetary. If I choose to take less than what we have contractually agreed upon, I make sure my client knows that. I'll say, hey, I know we agreed to X number of bananas. Through my negotiations, I've been able to get the seller to cover all except 0.5% of a banana. As a professional courtesy and in the, act of good faith, I'm going to waive that. What I ask for in return is I'd like to be your go-to agent for all your friends, family, etc. Please don't share with them that I waived my fee. However, for you, I'm going to, but I want them to know, and I want them to feel from the laws of reciprocity that they now want to do something for me that's going to help advance my business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in. Kristen mentioned, so Emily, I'm going to jump to your question in the chat, and then Corey, I see your hand up, so I'll get to you. Emily, what are some good words to use to get people to come in and do a buyer consult? Beth and Aaron, do you guys do buyer consults? I know Aaron, you do. Why don't you just kind of talk about, like, I know what I do, but why don't one of you take this so that we can get to all the questions?
Sure,
Go
I'll
ahead,
just.
Beth.
So I simply say when I, whether I'm meeting somebody in an open house or I'm fielding a sign call, whatever the case may be, I'll say, has anybody taken the time to educate you on the process of being successful in securing a home in today's market? And they're like, no. They always say no. I don't care how many times I've asked that question, it's always no. I said, fantastic. My service begins with an initial consultation. It's absolutely free. I think it's very important that you go into this scenario with your eyes wide open. You understand the entire process, and we can make a determination if we're a good fit for each other. I have time on Tuesday, or would you prefer Friday?
Emily, does that help you? Where is Emily? Too many screens here.
I think she's in the chat.
She
Okay,
said that's amazing.
perfect. Corey, I see your hand up. Take yourself off mute. Ask your question.
Well, Beth kind of touched on it. My question was, so I'm a lender, and on my side, I'm explaining to clients how to cover commissions if needed through my strategies. But I wondered on the realtor side if they were having conversations with the buyers in a way that, like, listen, I'm putting 3%, but that's only because I can't take more than what they are offering if it's on it. Like if I put 2% and they give 3%, I can't take it. But is anybody saying, but my floor or the lowest I'll take is 2% or 2.5%, or I'm sorry, bananas, because
we technically cannot do that.
so you have to just stay at the, that's
Yes.
what I was wondering.
Now,
So
if, like Beth said, down the road, we want to say, I'm willing to waive what we agreed to, but this document is not a to or from document. That is the whole problem that the DOJ had. So there's no like, I'll gonna sign it at this, but if I get this, we'll do like, this is why I'm telling you, you have to have your value and say, this is what I'm charging. I love Beth's analogy that it's like, I do that sometimes too, that it's like, hey, I know this person knows a lot of people. I'm not going to charge them that extra half a banana. Right. And so you can see the value in that, but we cannot have a range on these documents. So do not do a range, find your value, set your value. After you get under contract based on negotiations, you should be having this conversation with your buyer as you're negotiating. What are we asking the seller in this offer to compensate for us? Right? What are we not asking? Do you want to pay out of pocket? Is there multiple offers and you're like, hey, I'll pay all these fees and my closing costs, just give them the best deal. Like, we're not negotiating this. The client is telling us what they want to do out of pocket. We're working for them based on, here is your net sheet of everything you're going to owe between your lender fees, your title fees, and me. How do you want to negotiate and strategize your offer?
Yeah,
And at
that's
the end of the day, it's up
Saying
to
you're
them.
gonna waive it is a
Yeah.
really good, I like that. So that, just so I know from my side, when I'm explaining to clients their lending options, I'll just let them know that that's just, you're starting at that banana and that's what you're gonna be working with.
Yeah. And then before I jump to, I saw another hand, but there's another question here. What
It was
advice
late.
would you have for a brand new agent coming into navigating this? That's in the comments. Aaron, you want to take that one?
I personally think that new agents have like the you don't know what you don't know, and in
Yep.
this case it's a really good thing.
Yeah.
So because you don't know what you don't know, you're just gonna be like, yeah, this is what I'm working for. You know, like at no other job, or we're not fighting anybody else on their fees. So for us, it's explaining the 100 things. Here's all of the things that I do from start to finish. We even take the time to knock on doors, send out flyers. We find off-market properties. We call expired listings inside of the area that you like. So for that, my fee is this. You know, it's not it's just this is what it is. And as long as you have rehearsed that enough, as long as you feel confident just saying that. But I feel like what I'm seeing on my team, at least, like I have countered the compensation multiple times now, where some members on my team, this is something I'm working on, right? Like it's a confidence thing where they're like, oh, they said 2.5 bananas and I don't want to mess this up. I'm like, well, same thing to Rachel's point. I just went back to my buyer and like, hey, listen, they said this, they wanted to counter title, they wanted to counter this, and it looks like you would have $1,500 or $2,000 added into your closing costs for my fee. You know, is that something you'd want to counter back or not?
Yeah, and Delia, I think that's who asked the question. I apologize if I misspoke. My best advice to build your confidence is simply to do the things that you say you're going to do. Right? Confidence comes when we keep commitments to ourselves. So everything, if you say, I'm going to be really committed to understanding this process and I'm going to break it down like that. We have a buyer roadmap that when we go through our buyer consult, we're literally taking them step by step. And we practice and we role play what each step is and what our value is to that particular step so that we're constantly infusing ourselves into the process. We use a lot of us and we, and even though we're an attorney state and the attorneys do title, I say, I'm going to facilitate the relationship with the attorney to ensure that we get title in a timely fashion. So it is a little bit of scripting, and the more you practice the script, the more it naturally starts to sound like you. So to build your confidence, be really sure of the process and your ability to articulate that, and you'll do great. You actually are coming in at a fantastic time because you don't have to unlearn a previous way of doing this. You get to learn how to demonstrate your value out of the gate.
Yeah. I would also piggyback on that. If you're a new agent coming into this market, it's already nerve-wracking having a buyer consult because it's like, I have not closed one transaction. Maybe I've closed two. It's a huge elephant in the room, right? And so what I would recommend, this is my recommendation. You can take it, you can run with it, you can throw it out and tell me I'm stupid. I don't think any new agent should be in this business without being on a team or having a coach. That's just my theory, right? And the reason is you don't know what you're doing. And in most states, unlike where Beth's at, like in Arizona, we actually are acting as attorneys. You want to act as an attorney with no help, go for it, right? For me, the reason I always say you should have a coach or a team is because when you are sitting down in those buyer consults and you're really nervous because you're worried they're going to ask you, how many transactions have you closed? And you have to go none or two, right? And then you're like, but I want 3 bananas. They're going to be like, well, why? Right? Something that I always teach my team when they're new is call out the elephant in the room. Hey, I know I'm new to the business, but just so you know, this is who I've connected myself to. This is my coach. This is my team. They close X amount of transactions a year. This is how many they've closed in their career. This is their success rate. This is the training I'm doing. People will respect you for calling out the elephant in the room and going, hey, I know I'm new, but I'm willing to connect myself to these people who are so great. And now this is what we've accomplished. And I'm part of that. Now this is why we do what we do. It's laying out, like Beth and Aaron said, what we offer. And this is why I charge what I charge. It helps you overcome that elephant in the room of being a new agent.
Yeah, you get to leverage the experience of your team and those around you. So
yeah,
absolutely do that. Like my new agents don't say, I haven't closed a transaction. They say our team closes on average between 250 and 300 transactions annually.
Yeah.
Because they get to tap into that experience. So there's no reason they shouldn't speak to it.
Yep. Do we have any other questions? I don't see any, Kristen, in the chat. I think I got the last one. Any other hands up?
I think Yvonne's back up.
Yeah, this is Yvonne again. And the reason I think I'm so blown away by you guys right now is because I'm a newer agent, but I've been in real estate a long time. I came in as an investor. And I started with a brokerage that I started at COVID, so I didn't have a lot of training. The training's online, but I think I do the training, but I'm not hearing what you guys are saying today. I'm hearing you, but I feel like I was trained that okay, ask for 3 bananas on the paper and let them know you'll take what the listing agent's giving, and I was immediately dis discounting myself, right? Whatever I would take. And I'm hearing you guys at a different level of, yeah, presenting the resume, presenting that I spent 5 hours preparing this open house day and walking around and driving and making sure that these were the right, houses. I'm very nervous talking. I don't know why, but, um, but what I'm hearing from you is, and I thought I had training, and now I'm like, okay, how did you build? Because of COVID and we're not in person, even having a coach, are you saying a one-on-one coach where you're role playing or being on a team? Because I think I've looked for that and I'm not finding it, but I'm hearing you guys at such a different level right now that I'm so grateful, like so grateful for what all of you are bringing. But I'm a little lost. If I'm a little like, I don't know where to go, and how to do that, how to find that support.
What I would say is I don't want to get into it to this call because it's such a specific question. I would say, Kristen over here in the corner, set up a call with her, as she's the best connector I've ever met in my entire life. And she will connect you with someone who you can talk to about a team, about coaching. Like Kristen's the greatest human in knowing people all over the place. And so I would set up a call with Kristen and let her help you not feel so lost, because that's something she's really good at, is helping people not feel lost in this like sea of chaos.
But I also will reiterate, I believe everybody does need a coach. Coaching runs $1,000 to $2,000 a month. If you can't or don't afford that, then I would for sure join a team. The problem with teams are people are like, oh, it's too expensive. Like the team leader gets whatever percentage. I'm like, listen, after I pay my bills and all of the bills for the team, it's about 14%. I make 14%. So several, I believe that you should be on a team until you are selling 24 homes or 8 million or more 2 years in a row. And that's really because anyone can do it 1 year. But what happens is they get super cocky, like, oh, I can do this on my own, no big deal. Then they go off and they don't have the same structure. They don't have all of the support systems, and then they sell nothing or nearly nothing. And so that's the hard part. You got to pay for a coach one way or another. I believe.
Yeah.
Thank for experience. And there's so much available out there that I know at times it can be overwhelming. The agents on my team, I'm very candid. This is a partnership.
Mhm.
I'm investing in you and you're making an investment back into this partnership. If I was going to go open a restaurant and I'd never run a kitchen before, I would want to get a strong partner that knew how to run a kitchen. So connect with Kristen.
Okay, I know it says Michaela, but I'm pretty sure that's Kate. You can see like the littlest.
I do not know what's going on today.
Do you want to unmute yourself?
Randy, can you unmute her?
There we go. I think I got it.
Hi, Kate.
Hey, yeah, that is weird. I don't know why it says Michaela. So I have a question for you guys. So I work with a lot of investors and I'm pretty comfortable negotiating my commission, working into the deal sometimes. Like that's something I'm super comfortable with. So this isn't new for me, but I just had something happen that was kind of, a one-off, but I feel like it might happen more often in this new kind of climate where people are just throwing spaghetti to see what happens because either they don't understand the new structure or it hasn't been explained. But I have an existing client. I've probably sold 5 of his properties. He's doing a 1031 exchange. He's rolling his money into a new property. So we saw 4 or 5 properties one day and he ended up writing on 2 side by side. Came in under ask, they came back with a counter and he asked me to reduce my fee to sweeten the deal. And I've just never had to have the conversation after the agreement signed, the expectation is in place. But also with someone who I already have an existing relationship with, I've made a lot of money for, quite frankly. And so I just kind of went back with my compensation is not on the table. And that was like the first hit. And then we did a whole nother round of back and forth with the sellers. We got really, really close. And he said, I'm just going to ask you again to reconsider. This is going to benefit both of us. And basically, we spent so long doing this that we lost it. It went to someone else. It got under contract. And now I'm not sure if this is someone that I want to work with. It kind of felt like bird in hand. Maybe I just make that sacrifice of 0.5% or 1% to keep it together. But then is he telling other investors that I'm a discount agent? Is he going to do that every time I work with him? So what would you guys do in that situation? And now that we're in between, am I firing this client? Are we having a hard conversation? Like, what am I doing?
That's a hard one.
That's
a hard one.
I would evaluate if you want to continue to work with this individual. Just from an integrity standpoint, the fact that you have a standing history, you've obviously performed at a high level over time. Otherwise, he likely would have gone and found another agent in the meantime. I would start a conversation with, I want to make sure that we have a mutual understanding. Have I done anything to make you question my ability to help you succeed in securing these properties? And
Right.
if there is, then have that conversation and unpack that. I like to flip the script on people sometimes. I do this with my sellers often when they're like, oh, well, if you bring the buyer yourself, are you going to, reduce your commission or my bananas, sorry. Or if you do X, are you, and I always go, well, absolutely. But when I over deliver, are you going to pay me 3 bananas more than what we agreed upon?
Yeah.
And
I guess I've never.
So they start to push back. I go, okay, so you want me to essentially be fee for service and adjust my commission if I don't perform, yet you don't want to compensate me for overperformance. That doesn't sound like a win-win to me. Does it to you? And they immediately back off. So if I were you, and I know you're not Michaela, hey, I would say, so once you eliminate any possibility that maybe he's dissatisfied with something that's happened, I'd say, so on the next transaction, when I get you X percentage off a list price, you're then going to compensate me more, correct?
Yeah, I guess what's wild is like this isn't money out of his pocket. It's on the sell side. There was a 3% co-op, by the way, like it was already communicated. So to me, it's like you're leveraging my compensation. You know what I mean? That's
It's not
even
his to give. Yeah, it's not his to give.
And
Right.
if he's
It's hard. We
unwilling
can't
to
tell
pay
you
that,
what to
he shouldn't
do.
have signed it.
I think the
Like,
way
have the hard convo.
Yeah,
and decide
because
if it's someone you want to work with. Is
Yeah.
it worth saying, hey, I'm willing to take a little bit less to keep his continued business or not? There's some people, you could pay me all the money in the world, I never want to work with them again.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
so you have to make that decision for yourself.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. We're getting close, Kristen, to wrapping up. And we probably have time for one more question if someone has one. Otherwise, Kristen, Randy, we'll let you guys take over.
Yeah, I don't see any more questions, but
Yep.
dang, ladies, you brought so much value today. And so how many of you, can you raise your hand and say, like, I feel more equipped today and possibly even excited about those raises, right? I love that, especially as moms. I think it's so important that we really do remember that our time is our money and we just spend this, like to Erin's point, you know, okay, now I can do 3 less deals and still actually make $30,000 more. And it's not about making the $30,000 more. It's about getting that time to repurpose and be present with your family. And so I just love this. And I know the next 6 weeks are just going to be so impactful. So mark your calendars every single Monday for the next 5 weeks from here on out. Kristen, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, you guys, we have some really great people lined up over the next 6 weeks. You will hear from each of these ladies again one more time. They're going to be mixed in with other ladies though. So make sure to be on here. You know, like I was saying to Yvonne, I think the biggest thing that I see the need for is the consistency in the conversation. So come on the calls. If things are happening between now and the next call, when you're out and you're working with clients, write them down in your notes so we can talk about them on the call. I think that's going to be one of the biggest things. These will be recorded, but I do definitely suggest being on if you can.
Well, and really quick, just to that point, like we talked about the importance of a coach. This is like, these are women that are in the trenches, right? These are women in the trenches encountering different things. And this is an opportunity to show up and ask the questions and to tap in and to get that live guidance right here. So this is a coaching opportunity, a mentorship opportunity where all of our speakers are graciously showing up and pouring into this community. So invite other agents and to show up and tap in. Don't just watch a replay, because inevitably you're going to have that question that you wished was asked that wasn't. So again, thank you ladies so much. You guys brought such great value. We super appreciate it. So we will see you all next Monday.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.